You're watching Squawk on CNBC Africa. My name is Bruce Whitfield and I'm joined by former Wits University winger, rather sad Arsenal supporter, David Shapiro from Sasol. Also with us, a man who's a soft spot for the Dakar Stock Exchange. I don't know why. Mark Ingham from Ingham Analytics. We'll explain that. We know his Arsenal affectations. The Dakar Stock Exchange?
Oh yes, on your share shootout, I got a list of shares that you can't pick. I think they must have run to 100 or so. So I said, well, that's great. I think let's move on to the Dakar Stock Exchange.
Right, but we'll see what you manage to pick on Share Shootout next week. But yeah, I'm sorry about that. Okay, big fan of the Dakar Stock Exchange. Well, maybe that's where money will be made in the future. But David Shapiro, on to more serious and more pressing things, and that is the currency. It is in serious trouble.
It is in serious trouble. Mine 26 when I last looked, and the problem is that the cavalry haven't come to rescue us.
Explain.
What I mean is that every time we see bouts of weakness, it retreats a bit or pulls back a bit, and you find either chaps come in and feel that it's cheap and buy it and start to support it. We haven't seen any support coming in, and that to me is a concern. There's another concern that I have as well, and it's worth discussing, because when we've seen previous bouts of weakness, 1998 emerging market crisis, 2000 internet bubble, these were international affairs, 2008 Lehman Brothers, this is South Africa, this is 1984-85. Feel about it, that's when P.W. Botha shook his finger at the world. And I have a feeling that this is confined to South Africa, not to other emerging markets. It just seems to be this exit from our country. It's not necessarily in equities, probably in bonds and that. But I'm trying to fathom out what's going to turn it around, what's going to bring people in now to buy the rand.
It's all about confidence, marking. I mean, you talk to your own clients, don't you? And they're telling you that they are selling South African bonds. They are worried about our ability to meet our obligations.
Yeah, as we were saying off air, I mean, one particular big investor is going light their exposure to South African bonds, and they're watching very closely the ratings, although they understand the limitations. Prudency dictates that they have to follow.
I want to explore that for a second as well, because everybody around the world, you say ratings agents, and they say, what idiots? They should have seen the 2008 financial crisis. They're completely discredited. Well, nobody cares about them.
They are precise after the fact.
Completely.
And in fact, people have been voting with their wallets already.
Yes.
Yes.
But when you look at the ratings agencies, they downgraded us a while back.
Yes.
There was another Standard & Poor's affirmation of a negative rating for South Africa, a negative ratings watch. The South African Treasury got very grumpy about that and said, but we're doing all the right things. Well, we're talking about doing the right things. We're not necessarily doing the right things yet. We're not being perceived to be doing the right things. And that's what's making your friends nervous.
That's right, Bruce. They have been voting already, and they will vote further if there are ratings downgrades, largely because their mandates say that you can't be exposed to sub-investment grade.
Yeah. But we're not yet at sub-investment grade, but we're a notch away.
We're too close for comfort, in fact. And this partly also explains David's concern, I think, over the currency, in that there isn't that natural support out there. That people are going light when they can. 30% of bonds are held offshore. We should be very nice to foreigners, even if we're not nice to ourselves. No. And just remember, David, we are not the nation of jellyfish.
Oh, I had a horrible flashback.
Talking about the early 80s. Yes.
Absolutely, I had that flashback. It was great for the picture went black and white and everything.
There's another element to this, and it's an important element and one that is worrying me. The gold price has come down quite dramatically on a lot of sales, on big sales of hedge fund managers getting out.
The nice Mr. Soros.
Mr. Soros, John Paulson, Louis Moore. So there's some big sales. Also what's happened, platinum prices come down, iron ore price leveling out, and so on. So we're not getting the rescue that's coming through from a resource market that should have or was supposed to be stronger. In the early 2000s and that we got rescued by the Chinese, very strong commodity prices. This time, the resource market is also starting to look a little weaker as money shifts to the United States, which is starting to look stronger.
Yeah. What is going to rescue us, David? What's going to bring the cavalry in from the far-flung regions to come and rescue us?
I think it's government policy. Government actually has to sit around a table and say, I think we've got a bit of a crisis. And I think we've got to reposition ourselves to actually start attracting people in and making them want to come here and invest in the country. And that's one thing we do have, is plenty of resources to attract foreigners. But we've got to give them the right kind of environment to do so.
And will it be a change in government policy? Will it be a change in ratings agency perspective? Because we know government policy, which will change, and I'm pretty convinced that it will, because we have no blimmin' choice other than to be more investor friendly. And I think we're slowly coming to the reality that we must be. The ratings agencies will wake up to that 6 months after it's happened. So canny investors will see the signs long before the ratings agencies do.
Quite. And in South Africa, we're staring into the donga, if you will, the whole sort of abyss. And I think typically, when South Africa stares into the abyss, it pretty much steps back from the abyss.
Yeah.
But
we tend to stand each time we get to the abyss. We tend to lean over just that little bit further. Is it really that deep? That's the worry.
The positive signs, Trevor Manuel. I mean, he's a minister who's been in cabinet since 1994. Finally saying, hey, you know, you chaps have got to start delivering. He's saying to his own people, start delivering. And in my view, those are positive signs. Brian Joffe coming out. We've never heard business mode. We've never heard. Suddenly Brian Joffe with his results saying, you know, we could do a lot better here.
Yeah.
You know, if there was some kind of agreements between Labour, between businessmen. If everybody got together, we could do better.
I was giving Mark Ingham before we came on air a pep talk while we were waiting for you, David, to wend your way through the fans outside. It's a bit like the Oscars when David arrives over here. But people, more and more people are saying the right things at the highest levels of government. Pravin Gordhan is giving concrete examples how they're tackling tenderpreneurs. You've got government ministers paying real attention to business. Susan Chibangu responding more quickly than ever before to a potential blow-up at the Marikana mine a couple of weeks ago. Now Trevor Manuel is having a go at deployment and all of those different issues. All absolutely wonderful. But I look at Trevor Manuel and say, you're a guy with nothing to lose. You've had yourself deselected from the National Executive Committee of the ANC. Okay. Do you really stand for election on the ANC ticket next year? And do you really intend to be in cabinet next time around? Yeah. Hopefully he stays involved. I really do hope so. But he's speaking like a guy who has nothing left to lose by upsetting his colleagues in the ANC. Possibly?
You've got a point. You know, he is on the outside now, but hopefully they'll listen. You know, hopefully Pravin Gordhan will make a noise around the cabinet table and other people.
It's a very big table. And
it is a big table.
It's quite hard to be heard at the other end of that table right now.
That's the problem. And in fact, you know, we say it cynically, but that is the problem. Are people listening? I think you've got to put away the ideology, put away all those policies. You know, when you look at this whole debacle around the Goldfields Empowerment deals, where
shambolic.
It is shambolic.
But here's a situation where, and we need to explain it to people who haven't heard about this, is that the Goldfields BE story has been blown out of the water for the last 6 months or so. Goldfields has tried to keep a lid on it. It's got out of control. Then just this week, we've seen the founder of Ahang, Mampela Rampele, take it from whence it comes, because she's making political statements as a former chairperson of Goldfields, who in that job never made this statement, but saying that government basically threatened Goldfields with the loss of a mining license if the following list was not adhered to. And then you've got the company which doesn't seem to know what list it signed up to. It was just pathetic.
It is pathetic, but a foreigner looks at it and says, does anybody know what's happening down there? Is anybody in charge? And what are they in charge of?
Can we talk about something more positive?
Yes.
I'm quite depressed. Can I borrow the razor blades back, please? Sasol. Let's talk about Sasol. Let's talk about David Constable, the Chief Executive Officer of Sasol, the new guy who has taken the big step, the big leap of faith into David's favourite market of the moment, which is the United States.
Yes, there's a lot of capital investment. The Synfuels business in South Africa is still the rock bed of the cash generation.
It's 88% of operating profit or something crazy still.
Yeah, and more importantly, the cash, because they need that to invest. Nonetheless, Sasol has to stay ahead of the game, and it's got to look to GTL and similar technologies. And to my mind, you know, and we were saying this on air the other night, David, it's a super added value chemical manufacturing company, and one should see it in that light. And it's not just a South African one any longer, it's a global business, and I think we need to see it increasingly in that light. And it is a real gem for South Africa. It's a strategic national asset, but it must be allowed its wings to fly. And I still think it's underpriced.
Okay, at 400 and something bucks,
Very
which is
much
where
so.
it's gone through.
I've got a fair value of 507 and a target of about 530.
Now, why is there then this cap on the Sasol share price? Is it the risk profile that they're engaging in into a sector that they don't know that much about, in a new territory that they don't know that much about? The fact that they've spent billions on exploring brownfields operations all over the world, which they're now withdrawing from. It's an expensive betting machine, the Sasol, David.
It is an expensive betting machine, but you have to look at a broader picture. First of all, I think what's dragging it down is the chemical side, which I think they wanted to get rid of a long time ago, didn't, but are still bumbling through that one. But have a look at the developments in the world. Where they're finding natural gas, from Mozambique to the Karoo to the United States, where they placed in Louisiana. This natural gas, if you've got the technology to turn that gas into liquid fuel, into either diesel or into, as we do in South Africa, into petrol, then you're ahead of the game, because I think more and more of those projects are going to come on globally and going to help. It's not the end of crude, it's not the end of Saudi Arabia, but it's a supplement.
Yeah.
And I think that they are well placed, and that's what I find exciting about them, where they will be 5-10 years down the line, not on where the oil price is now versus the rand.
I was chatting to David Constable saying, look, 88% of operating profit from South Africa now. 10 years from now, he goes, it's 50-50. It's 50-50
Yes.
it's 50 global, 50 South Africa. They've got to take the big bet and go global. Otherwise, they become a very nice synfuels business in South Africa. They'll make lots of money out of it, courtesy of the weak rand and high oil prices. Brilliant.
But
it's
on
not
the
worth
rand
investing.
thing, just going back to the rand, a weak and extremely volatile rand, as we've been experiencing in more recent months, is actually more damaging, it's more harmful for a company like that. It makes life extremely difficult. Just, when we look at it, it's essentially a US dollar business.
Yes.
It's a proxy US dollar. And the P&L and the balance sheet is a conversion, by and large. In fact, there's a strong argument for them reporting in USD, principally. But where we are with the rand at the moment, all at sea and no predictability, is extremely damaging for
For business generally, absolutely.
Yeah.
That lack of predictability that the currency brings into it, the inflationary threat that the currency brings into it, is also of concern. But we're focusing on the positives, because otherwise we're going to do ourselves an injury. Naspers, 1 in 5 cars sold in Russia is sold online by Naspers. They've done
This is a new business.
Yes, this is the new business that they've bought, about $500 million or thereabouts, of a Russian internet company. This is just a fabulous tale.
And this comes on the back of Tencent, which itself is looking to go into e-commerce and is expanding its operation there. So you can't, this is one of those shares you've just got to go with. Don't question the valuations, just question...
I'm sorry. Did you say don't question the valuations?
Well, I enjoy the valuations.
Captain Value over here, Captain Two Raging Bulls value investor, says don't question the valuation.
I bought them when they were valued, but now I'm just enjoying the ride, because I think Chris Becker is one of South Africa's brightest thinkers, and he understands the market, and he goes into areas where Google are not, or where he's not knocking heads with the big names that we know. He finds his own niche. Russia, Tencent, well ahead of the game there. He'll find something in South America. He'll find something probably in Mexico. That's big. And I think that's what I enjoy about Naspers.
Can you ignore the valuation, Mark?
I'm like David Shapiro and Warren Buffett. I am utterly clueless about IT and tech and all this type of stuff. I really haven't got the foggiest. So I'm inclined to go with David's viewpoint. How do you model this thing? How do you predict what the P&L is going to look like in 5 years? I think David's quite correct. You're investing in people with the knowledge, people who know a lot better than you do. And you're betting the jockey.
I would rather have this than Facebook.
Okay.
I think Chris Becker is a better chooser of internet companies.
What temperature is the Facebook office set at?
I saw that. Cold. 18 or 20, somewhere around there.
15 degrees. If you watch footage of Facebook, there are always jackets on the back of the chairs. It's not because they might need to go to an important meeting. It's because they might bloody get hypothermia and die.
15 is freezing.
That is 59 degrees Fahrenheit.
What are we in here? This is like it's cold in
This
here.
is comfortable. This is like 22 degrees. But yeah, 15 degrees. It keeps them alert apparently. And yeah, spends lots of money on energy. A final one that we need to look at. You two saw each other this morning at the Dawn results. Building materials. I quite like this story because this tells us a real economy story. Cashbuild's disappointing, but Dawn, you say, is doing some interesting things, Mark.
Yeah, it's in building materials.
Toilets and pipes and things.
Yeah, exactly. And also in general infrastructure type stuff. So it pretty much covers everything you need if you're building something. Manufacturing, distribution, also into other parts of Africa. And I mean, they've had a very somber market since 2008. They did stare into the abyss and they fell into it too. But they've learnt, and I think they're managing the business for the new normal, as the new saying goes. So the result this morning is more a function of what management have been doing to tailor it to the realities, and in the process taking new opportunities. But the market is fairly moribund.
Okay, moribund, a nice word for it. But focusing on the new normal, David, it's a South African company doing interesting things internationally, and it's doing stuff internationally that Cashbuild can't do, which is why Cashbuild is struggling, and
Well,
perhaps Dawn is successful.
you can't take bags of cement and take them across the border.
Well,
which is Cashbuild. But look, that's the old Bomat, isn't it? Yeah.
Amongst others, yeah.
Amongst
They got
others.
Val in there too.
They got VAR. That's the toilet. And
Absolutely, you always try to hit the logo, and then you know you're on target. It's a boy thing. Apologies for that.